remember getting ready. First major hurricane I had a chance to be in, and I remember going over what we were going to do in case the hurricane was a direct hit. Because on a hurricane, you don't really know if it's going to hit you wide open. It can move right or left of 50 miles and you not get nothing or get more. So just getting ready to get prepared, stocking the trucks, material, fuel, lining the men up. Boss man told us to go home, take care of our stuff at home, come back and be prepared to stay. And that's what we did. We come back, we got our game plan together, and it started. The wind started blowing, the rain showers came in, and we thought, oh, this ain't nothing, you know. I didn't know that about 4 hours later, it really started barking. And we tried to get the lines up. We get one section back on, 15, 20 minutes later, we lose it again. Trees falling, that's the biggest thing in a hurricane is the trees. The lines they'll stay a lot of times, but there's rotten trees, even the green trees, those gust of winds, you know, 100-mile-an-hour winds, they take a tree over. That's what we were fighting. So we finally decided, look guys, we're not doing anything, everybody get back in here and let's let it go through, and when it clears up, we'll get back out there. So we tried as long as we could to keep the lights on as long as possible, but it didn't last too long, it was too rough. We worked 16 hours shifts, and then we go home, or some of us went home. I didn't go home, we stayed at the plant most of the time. We worked 16 hours, lay down for a little bit, get up and go again. And the water was terrible, flooding. It'd be hard to get the trucks to some of the poles. We'd be out there working and somebody call, hey, can you come pull me out? We're stuck down here off of Rayford Road or whatever. And that was irritating us because every time we get ready to get started, had somebody else call, pull out, go help another crew. So it was something going on all the time, it was nonstop. And then it was like, maybe after the first day and a half, people were coming up to us thanking us. And that just makes you just go harder. You know, people come up with tears in their eyes thanking you. And that just makes you want to get up and go harder. You know, you don't want to sleep. Well, you want to sleep, but you can't because you're thinking, you know, I'm going to help these people out. Older people in the community, they're the ones that you're really worried about because it's real hot, no power, the food's spoiling. And but you get the power on, they were just coming to you, hug you, thank you. And Lord, they offer you all kind of food and drinks to eat. So the community was real nice to us the whole time. We had Fable back on in 2.5 days. About 20 years ago, texting, cell phones, pictures, nah, we didn't have that. So we, the radio, and we had cell phones, but the radio all the time, it was nonstop. The dispatchers, bless their heart, I know they had a stack of tickets 2 foot high. They would call tickets to us, and it was back and forth all the time. So I wish we had a lot less trees in the yard that helped out, but we cleaned up for 2 weeks after the hurricane come through, after we got lights back on. So that was the biggest thing, was the mess, the destruction, the debris. A month later, they still have stuff piled beside the road of tree limbs and stuff piled up, and the city of Fayetteville and stuff, you know, come through there and pick that up. So I remember seeing that.
I was a lead CSR at the time, so I was asked to be there during the night of the storm. I remember them asking the first crew to go home, you know, get our families situated and, you know, take care of our properties as we needed to, as well as, you know, the public was being informed, you know, how to do that as well. And get a little bit of rest and then pack a bag, be ready to stay overnight, bring a blanket and a pillow. And I did that. I didn't rest any though. There was a lot of hype and, you know, anticipation of leaving my family and, you know, getting prepared to, you know, work in the call center all night. Customers were calling in to let us know their power was out. I think we had some that called in just because they knew we were up, and we were, you know, an open line of communication between them and what was going on at their location. I think it was very important for the customer to know that when they called PWC, there was a person on the other end of the line. We were answering calls. We were not going into an automated system, and they were able to make sure that we knew what was going on at their location. When the storm hit on a Thursday night, we had a bride that I'm sure was anticipating her wedding day on Saturday. So as power took a couple of days to get restored her nervousness, I'm sure, set in pretty quickly. So she and every person in her wedding party called us several times to make sure that we were aware of the power outage and how it was going to affect her big day. So needless to say, I'm sure I heard, as well as all the call representatives heard from someone constantly letting us know power was out and how important it was for them to get their services back on. From the night of the storm and working the storm and seeing the darkness and the raging wind and the transformers blowing up and all that, to go from that to when the storm has passed and we've moved on to the next day, the morning of the next day, it was just amazing how beautiful the skies were, the blue skies, and just seeing that we had gotten through that, and we had a lot of work ahead of us, but we had gotten through that, and just having that calmness was really comforting.
It was at least 3 days prior. We had been watching the news forecast, so we had a good idea of when it was coming. So we just tried to prepare everything prior to Fran hitting ground. First of all, we had to go out and make sure all our vehicles were prepared. We had to check our tires. We had to check our flashlights, fuel up all the vehicles. And once we got all that stuff ready, also had to go to the warehouse, pick up raincoats and anything that we may need at that time. During Fran, it was rather intense. That was the first time that I've ever seen Fayetteville pitch black. It was myself and my department head at the time when PWC office was located downtown. We were standing in the kitchen window, and it was like a big picture window, and you could see over towards Highsmith Rainey. And I was telling my boss, I said, look at the lightning on that side of town. He said, it's not lightning, that's the 230 line clapping together, and it just lit the sky up. And it was awesome and scary. There's one area, we were down on Weeks Avenue, and it seemed like at least most of the poles on the street were torn down. And customers understood that it's going to take a while for us to get the poles back up. And they were outside. A lot of people were grilling. It was a pretty good atmosphere. They promised us cookies once the power was back on. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and my department head, he said he wanted us to go out there and assess the damage. So we left the building and we were riding, and we happened to come up Gillespie Street, and just where Gillespie Street intersects with Eastern Boulevard. Well, while we were sitting there, a transformer on our right had exploded. So I said, well, it's time for us to leave. So then we proceeded onto the intersection of Eastern Boulevard and Owen Drive. Well, my boss was looking over to the left. He was looking at where Hardee's is over in that area, and we saw the amount of traffic that was coming down. People were still out and about and looking. And he said, well, I think we need to go ahead and make a right turn and go down Owen Drive. And as I was looking down Owen Drive, I told my boss, I said, I don't think you want to go down there. So as we were looking, there used to be a place down the road there that sells handy houses, and the handy houses were rolling up the Owen Drive. So we turned around and went back to the office. The day after the storm, I can't compare it to a war zone because that's more horrendous. I don't know if any lives were lost to that point, but to go to some of the neighborhoods and look at the destruction, what these bursts were coming through and just taking out swaths of trees and laying them on the ground, and each little area you've gone to, your jaw just drops. And it was pretty much awestruck. Well, before and after Fran, the one thing that amazed me so much is the diligence that the line crews put into getting our power back on. To watch them, it was like an orchestra. If you see the conductors in the beginning, and everybody's tightening up their bows and all this. But then once the concert is ready to start, to watch these guys in action it was an awesome thing. This is our PWC commemorative hat. This was given to personnel in the line construction and in the electrical engineering department. And it was such an event for us, and to watch this team come together in such a manner that once I got my hat, it went straight to the house and inside a box. And that's why it looks as pristine as it does today.
We weren't nervous or anything. We kind of knew what to expect. We've had a few storms in the past, and we kind of were ready for it. It was just more curiosity than anything else. I was doing instrumentation work at the time, and I broke out the old barometer, and I was watching that, the pressures drop as the storm started coming over. And you could actually see when the center of the storm came over, or around that time, that the barometer dropped to its lowest pressure. We didn't have much damage out here, but once we went out of the gate, the trees were, it was like Armageddon, I guess. Trees laying all over the road. I live 9 miles from here, and it took probably an hour to get home. We didn't expect it to be as bad as it was as far as the trees being down the way it was, and we didn't expect the flooding out here to be as bad, but it turned out to be pretty rough. And it gets dark out here, very dark. Raincoats don't work, the wind blowing, you're soaked from head to toe. Feels like you're a human dartboard when a hurricane comes because the rain hitting you in the face. It feels like darts hitting you. We did lose power out here. We have 2 sources of feed to the plant. We lost our primary feed. It's important for us to have this point of delivery up because it feeds thousands of customers within our system. And if we lose our feed coming in, we lose basically half of our customers. Our employees, they come together. It's just unreal how we're so cohesive, and we have one singular thought in mind, is to restore the power and services back to our customers to keep our customers happy.
We certainly wanted to make sure that the computers were operational because if customers called in, certainly they wanted to inquire and find out, how long am I going to be out of power and everything. So, and we wanted to be able to certainly call them by name when they called in and know where they reside at, their location, whatever they were calling to report. So beforehand, certainly we were making sure that we had plenty of batteries and flashlights and things like that we would need even in IS in case the lights did go out for us, because we still work in the dark. I did get a hard hat and a big raincoat, so I was walking around in attire that I normally did not wear. They gave us those things so that we could have to go out just in case when we came back in, if the winds and the rain had started. So they prepared us not just for inside what we were going to do to support our customers, but even externally as we were leaving to go and be with our family and get things that we would need. We were prepared as much as we could be for what we thought, but for the devastation, no, that's something that comes afterwards. When you look around and, I remember getting in my vehicle from home, my whole family, and we just driving down the road to see the devastation. And certainly we had seen things where the trees, as they say, snapped, and the water just, had risen up and cars were under the water. So not ever had I ever seen it here. I had seen it on television. So now, wow. It hit home, and no, I was not prepared for that devastation. What I was able to see out of that was, wow, God is also awesome. He is, and we are very, very small when you go out and you look and see powers not in your control.
Well, I had just become general manager in 1994, so about 15 months into the new job, so to speak, and most of us were trying to see where the track of Fran was going to go. We'd had a Hugo before that missed us and went up towards Charlotte, and then after that we had like Bertha, who went north of us and didn't hurt us too bad. But Fran never wavered. It come straight up the Cape Fear River, and it was our first major hurricane in a long time, but since I can recall being at PWC. And we went through our process. We had just recently, as I recall, we developed our comprehensive emergency management plan. So it was the first time we got to actually use that. And so we called all the folks in, and everybody had their duties. And of course, I was the lead on the first shift, and then we had folks who were doing everything from logistics, and we were calling around making sure we could find help if we needed help, those kind of things. So it was pretty busy all the way around. And the day that we were expecting it, just before, we had sent some folks home, like some of the line crews, and asked them to get some rest, those kind of things, and sent some of the office folks home and told them to get their family things in order, get their kids taken care of, get their medication, come back, bring pillows, blankets, whatever they wanted to they may have to be there for a while. Couldn't promise them when they would be released to go back home, or if they could even get back home. So it was interesting to see how folks did. Some of them actually brought their children. We allowed that and brought them to PWC, and we housed them there, and then other folks could watch them whenever they were doing their duties, those kind of things. But a lot of people were prepared to stay and sleep, and including me. I was there for 48 hours straight. You know, we had at that time probably 75,000 customers, electric customers. But it's not only that, the water system gets impacted too, especially when the power goes off. But there was a substantial amount of rain during this process too. So we had issues with sewer lift stations and keeping the power on at the water plants and the wastewater plants and those kind of things. Since I kind of grew up at the generation plant in the point of delivery number 2, I actually left the EOC and went to the plant when that station went completely out, because we lost about a third of our system, and we got the system back on, and I tried to come back and trees were down across the line. I couldn't get back, so I spent about 2 hours in the parking lot at Cargill, and the guys from the water side of the house came and cut the trees off the road for me so I could get out and get back to the EOC. You know, there's a lot of apprehension because I'm sitting there, and Cargill has this substantial amount of outside lighting in their parking lot, those kind of things. So you can see the trees and the wind and debris blowing, and you know, you hear, because you're kind of by yourself, and you hear trees crashing and limbs breaking and those kind of things. So I did stay in a pretty open area, so nothing wouldn't fall on me or anything like that. But it was one of those experiences that you don't mind talking about after it's over with, but I wouldn't want to try it again. The biggest thing is to do things safely, because we don't want to, you know, trying to get the power back on and somebody lose their life is just not worth it. And I'm happy to say that we did that with no injuries and went through that whole process. They still followed their safety protocols and did a great job, even though they were trying to hustle and do their job. But they did it right, and they got folks' power back on. You know, the PWC folks, as long as I was there, and as long as I can remember, have always stepped up during emergencies, and they done an excellent job. They kind of put their families on hold, put their life on hold, to make sure that our customers came first, and they just done an excellent job.